Hello everyone, back to today's second video. Going to have a look at the weather for the next week, 10 days for today's second video. This takes us to around the 10th of September. Actually, we'll go a bit beyond that with the extended GFS. So we've just released a weekend forecast and we're in for a very dry week. Going to be high pressure dominating throughout the week, really, across much of the country. Starting off very warm, but it is going to get cooler from around Monday in the north and Tuesday down in the south. And remember, there's a bit of a question mark about the end of the week. How far north are we going to push this high pressure? Will it turn into a northern blocking type feature? If it does, it may get rather cool as we head into the second week of September. We'll talk about that more in today's second video update. Also bring up to date what's happening in the tropics as in terms of the tropical Pacific and Atlantic with those storms. And also we've got the central temperature in for August as well. So bring you up to date with that also. So quite a lot to cram in to today's second video update. Coming up later on today, we'll have Terry Scully's September forecast, but will also contain a little bit of information for the autumn as well, a little bit of a few tidbits for the autumn, possibly even for the early winter. So that'll be quite an interesting read. I think that'll be coming up this evening. And talking of winter, tomorrow it's the big one. It's the winter 2018-19 update, the first update of the season. We'll be doing winter updates every Sunday from tomorrow through to the end of November ahead of the winter forecast. More about that later on. So we're going to start off having a look at what's happening in the tropics. This is the eastern North Pacific in terms of storms and hurricanes. This is from the National Hurricane Center, which is part of NOAA in America. So two areas of interest here. So this is sort of Mexico there, by the way. So two areas of interest. We've got 17E just there. That is a tropical depression, not yet a tropical storm, but it is a tropical depression. And we've also got Hurricane Norman. Hurricane Norman is just there, a little bit to the west of 17E. Let's have a look at the forecast track of Norman. So at the moment, Norman is just here and is expected to stay as a hurricane. So not going into major hurricane status. A major hurricane would be from Category 3 or above. So this storm is going to stay at either Category 1 or Category 2. And keeping that sort of hurricane status right way through to the start of next week. That's its forecast track up to Monday, for example. By Wednesday, it should be down to a tropical storm status. So Norman there doesn't look like it's going to impact anywhere in terms of land masses. Just a storm in the tropical Pacific Ocean. This is how things are looking in the central Pacific Ocean in terms of those tropical storms and cyclones. So we've got Norman there on the right-hand side of the chart as you're looking at it. We've also got Miriam. Hurricane Miriam is just there. Let's see what they're saying about Miriam. So Miriam is a Category 1 hurricane with sustained winds of 85 miles per hour. The forecast track of Miriam looks like that. So generally keeping to the north and east of Hawaii. Those are the Hawaiian Islands just there. This is the current position of Miriam. Very shortly later today, Miriam should be downgraded from a Category 1 hurricane to a tropical storm. And then by Monday, as Miriam pushes northward, she should be down to a post-tropical depression. So not causing too many impacts in terms of Miriam or Norman. And then coming into the Atlantic Ocean, so we've got two areas of interest there. We've got this yellow X just here in the Caribbean. That's an area of thunderstorms, a cluster of thunderstorms that may or may not develop into some sort of tropical disturbance over the next few days. At the moment, there is a less than 40% chance of those thunderstorms in the Caribbean developing into a tropical storm. But we need to keep a close eye on it because all these storms, tropical storms, hurricanes, they begin their life, they begin their genesis as thunderstorms, areas of thunderstorms. So we need to watch out what's happening there. We've also got now Tropical Storm Florence over here And Florence could well be a big player in the North Atlantic over the next week or two. Let's see what they're saying about Florence at the moment. Tropical storm Florence has maximum sustained winds of 40 miles per hour, and she's moving west-northwestwards at around 14 miles an hour. This is the forecast track of Tropical Storm Florence over the next few days. So at the moment, it doesn't look like Florence is going to reach hurricane status. At the moment, she is just there, and they're forecasting Florence to go on that sort of west-northwest type track. So by Thursday, Florence should be just there, out at sea, not impacting any particular sort of land areas, and still at tropical storm status with Florence by Thursday. Now, whether Florence will eventually become a hurricane, we can't say for definite yet, but at the moment, up to Thursday anyway, it looks like Florence remains as a tropical storm. As I say, could be quite an important player in the weather in the North Atlantic later on in September. So we'll keep a close eye on what's happening there with now Tropical Storm Florence over the next few days. This is the Gauss over Central England temperature. We've got every month CET going right way back to 1659 at Gauss over now. That being the year of 1659, of course, just there. CET is the longest and most consistent temperature record anywhere on Earth, although of course the further back you go, the more unreliable it gets. Let's scroll down into the present day, and we come down to 2018. This is our year for 2018 just there. And as I say, we've got the CT in for August now. So August central temperature came out at 16.6, confirmed by Hadley at the UK Met Office, and that's quite a big drop on what we had in July. So in July we had 19.1, it's one of the hottest months on record. June was very warm as well at 16.1, that's a really warm CET for June. May also very warm at 13.2, and April was very warm at 9.8. You have to go back to February and March to find colder than average months. But focusing on the summer months, so we had June coming out at 16.1, July coming out at 19.1, really hot month in July, but then a much cooler August coming out at 16.6. So the upshot of all of this in terms of the CT, remember this is just for Central England, so it's not a UK temperature. We're still waiting for the stats to come in for the UK, but in terms of the Central England temperature, summer 2018 comes out as the 5th hottest summer on record. So definitely not the hottest summer on record in terms of the city. You're probably seeing headlines in the papers at the moment about this summer being the hottest summer on record. Not really sure where those stories are coming from, but certainly in terms of the CET, Central England temperature, this has not been the hottest summer on record. It's been the 5th hottest summer on record. We've come out ahead of 2006, which is now in 6th place. 2006 was formerly in 5th place, being shunted out of 5th place to 6th. And we've also come out ahead of 7th place hot summer 1983. But crucially, we're behind the 4th hottest summer, which was 2003. We're behind the 3rd hottest summer, which was 1995. And we're behind the 2nd hottest summer, which was 1826. And of course, we're still behind what is still the hottest summer on record, 1976. In terms of central temperature, 1976 retains its position as the hottest summer on record. So it certainly has been a very hot summer. It's been the 5th hottest. We're top 5 with the summer of 2018, but some way short of the hottest summer on record, and that of course is primarily down to the collapse in the temperature that has occurred during August. Started off at the opening days of August, we was around 19.9, so that really is a very impressive drop in temperature indeed that has taken place for August 2018. Very, very similar to what happened in 2006. Of course, the wait for a genuinely hot summer goes on. We scroll back up through here and we see the last time we had a genuinely hot August, the last time we had a genuinely hot August was back in 2003 when we had a CT of 18.3, although actually August 2004 was very warm at 17.6. But I think we consider a really hot summer month as having a CET of 18 degrees or more. So the last time we did that was back in 2003. I'm sure at some point soon we will get a very hot August, but not this year. And that's the reason that 1976 retains its position for the CT, anyway, as the hottest summer on record. We shall wait and see in terms of the UK-wide temperatures, and when those stats are in, of course, I will bring you up to date about that as well. Right, let's do a bit of forecasting then. So we're going to have a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly flowchart. We've got the ECMWF here on the top, and the GFS, which I'll have a look at in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibar, 10,000 feet. Is an area in the absolute high pressure, low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream running above. Red extrapolates high pressure, blue to low pressure. Mean flow charts for 7 to 10 days time, taking us into the second week of September, shows a big area of above average heights, a blocking high to our north with the ECM, but it does extend this ridge down through the UK, below average heights in the Atlantic. So the flow on the jet is going something rather like that and probably splitting some of the energy off down there. So that does have a northern blocking signature. We've got the centre of the high pressure between Greenland and Iceland, but because it's got this ridge extending down into the UK, actually it's not as cool as the GFS is showing. This is what the GFS is showing. And again, huge blocking feature sitting to our north. This is becoming northern blocking now. This is the same ridge, really, that gave us the very hot summer. But now the models want to take this much further north and set it up around the Norwegian Sea and going up to the north of Scandinavia. So what that does, it begins to allow energy to run underneath it. That's the first thing it does. So we start to at least try and move energy in underneath it. By the way, that's Tropical Storm Florence just there, that disturbance down there. Coming back to the situation in the UK. So we're trying to run energy underneath that blocking feature, and it also potentially turns the winds into more of a northeasterly direction. If the winds get into the northeast, that could start to drag some much cooler air out of northern Scandinavia. There's also some sort of disturbance developing here in the North Sea, so that could bring some rain into eastern parts of the country. But I think really it's the high pressure for blocking and the potential for the jet stream to start to run in underneath it that we have to watch out for here. So again, we've got the below average heights just there. The energy from the jet stream is going through there, and then most of it is pushing back northwards like that. But it would only take a very slight rise further north from this blocking feature to actually start to undercut the block and begin to move energy in from off the Atlantic. If we do that, we could go into not only a much cooler, but also a much more unsettled phase of weather through the second week of September. These are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles. We're looking at Manchester today. The red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Manchester. Starting off warm, we've got a warm couple of days coming up today, tomorrow. Temperatures are going to be into the mid-20s Celsius. A drop in the temperature is taking place from Monday through to Wednesday. Gradually, we see the temperatures dropping down closer to average. And then we've got a lot of scatter. You'll see there is a lot of scatter here for this end of first week into second week part of September. We have got several GFS ensemble members that are still pretty warm, but we now have several GFS ensemble members that are quite cool. That one is really quite cold, that gold member just there. That's a real outlier. So it looks as though going to a more uncertain phase in terms of the upper air temperatures, in terms of the temperature then. And that's primarily down to how far north are we going to get this area of high pressure. The further north we get the high pressure, the potential is for the air to turn cooler as it's pushed out of, ultimately pushed out of the Arctic, but pushed out of Scandinavia and down into the UK. Temperature anomalies from the 31st of August to the 8th of September are coming out a little bit warmer than average England and Wales, close to average for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Precipitation anomalies generally on the drier than average side. So this is how the GFS is looking for Tuesday. Of course, this is all covered by the week ahead forecast. So we've got the high pressure originating off the Atlantic on Tuesday. It'll be mainly dry and fine for the middle part of the week. But with a cooler air mass, a cooler, fresher air mass will move southwards. Initially affecting the north on Monday and then down into the south by the time we get through to Tuesday. That high pressure is still close to us through to the end of the week. Notice by Friday, though, its position is starting to move northwards. So high pressure is dominating, but around the top of that high pressure, we're starting to bring down some cooler air from the north and from the northeast too. Now, how far is this 6 o'clock run of the GFS going to take that high pressure? Quite a long way north. This is Saturday. And the centre of the high pressure now is between Iceland, that's Iceland just there of course, and Norway, which is over there. So the centre of the high pressure is way to the north of Scotland, and that, as I say, the further north this ridge goes, the cooler the air will be coming down around its southern and eastern side, and that starts to pull the air down from quite a long way north. Actually, if you follow the isobars back, the air is originating from the north of Scandinavia, so obviously that's bringing cooler air down across the country by the time we get through to next weekend. That is Sunday. Next week, 9th of September. And again, we've got a proper northern blocking feature. Bear in mind, this is the same high pressure, really, and essentially, that has given us the baking hot summer. But it's repositioning, it's changing its origins, if you like, or it's changing its centre, if you like, and it's moving up towards the Norwegian Sea, up here between Greenland and northern parts of Scandinavia. And so we're at the 9th of September now. You'll notice what's happening underneath is what I was talking about with the high anomaly flow charts. That's the jet stream just there. The jet stream is starting to be pushed southwards underneath. We begin to get an undercut underneath that blocking area of high pressure. So we've got these areas of low pressure just here. They're lurking to the south of Greenland. We're also lowering pressure around the Baltic Sea and the North Sea and around Denmark as well. So we're kind of being attacked by a pincer move. We've got low pressure trying to move in from the east. We've also got the threat of low pressure beginning to undercut this blocking area of high pressure. As it is, we're still just about hanging on to mainly dry conditions there through next weekend, but it certainly is a lot cooler compared to this weekend. And then we go up to day 10 and look what's happening. Gradually, we are moving this high pressure even further north. It's going up towards Greenland. So we've got a bit of a Greenland high setting up then. And now this is really starting to allow the undercut to take place. We've got low pressure here in the Atlantic starting to move in underneath that blocking feature. Low pressure is forming over Norway as well. We are trying to raise heights a bit to the south. That's the one thing that could protect us from low pressure rolling in and the jet stream rolling in underneath this area of high pressure. But it doesn't really do much for us on this particular run of GFS in the extended range. It does turn unsettled. So this is Wednesday the 12th of September, gone beyond day 10 now. And look at this, low pressure is really taking over here, bringing quite a lot of rain in from off the Atlantic. Still the block is there around Greenland and extending down into the North Atlantic as well, and we're beginning to force down some proper Arctic air there actually by Thursday the 13th of September. That, by the way, just there is Tropical Storm, or maybe Hurricane Florence. Let's extend on, and we find that by Friday the 14th, mid-September, we are turning the wind into the north. And just look at this. We actually do bring down on this GFS run. It's an outlier, so don't worry about this. But we do bring down on this GFS run for the first time this season the -5 Celsius isotherm. That is one of the minimum requirements that we look at to get snow. So that could actually, if it came off, and it won't come off, but if it did, that could possibly bring some wintry showers to the northern isles of Scotland. Also, The 528 thickness line, this blue line just here, is getting dangerously close to northern Scotland as well. Very, very unusual to see that get as far south as northern Scotland in the middle of September. As it is, we just focus on the fact that it is properly autumnally cool, and there's showers or longer spells of rain as well. And then we go into the end of this GFS run, and that's how we look at the very end of it. So it's all looking a bit ominous, really, from an unsettled perspective. That's the remains of Tropical Storm Florence, just there off the coast of Portugal and Biscay. Also got another area of low pressure just there in the middle of the Atlantic. We are actually under a slight ridge of high pressure, but I think we would probably find these low pressures curving northwards, and I think the days of that ridge there would be a little bit numbered. Very interesting GFS running in. Just going to show you how things can change if you start to get high pressure forming in the northern latitudes. This is how the ECMWF is running. Now, nobody's going to be more settled compared to the GFS, because sort of on the height anomaly flowchart, it has that ridge building down through the UK. So we start off through the middle of next week, high pressure dominating, relatively cool air mass. This takes us to Saturday next week. We are lifting that high pressure northwards, so it's going northwards. Its centre is in the Norwegian Sea, but it still has this ridge extending down into the UK, and so we're not forcing down the air from such a long way north and northeast as we do on the GFS. Nevertheless, that is cooler, probably cold enough for ground frost in the north anyway by the time you get through to next weekend. In the more extended range, we actually raise the heights to our south again, so very different by day 10 between these two model runs, although the GFS is lifting heights up a little bit to our south by day 10. It's not enough to protect us, though, from the more unsettled conditions. But the ECM does actually have the high pressure back in close to the UK by day 10. Although low pressure is out here, if we could run on another day or two more, we would possibly find the low pressure flattening off that ridge. But that is a bit speculative. Notice the northern blocking up here. It is there to some degree, but it's far less compared to the GFS. And then finally, the GM is looking like this. So again, high pressure is in control for much of this coming week. Don't lose sight of the fact that through most of this coming week, it's going to be dry. It's going to be a lot of fine weather. Any unsettled change to unsettled weather will be in the second week of September and running up to the middle of the month. So high pressure fest goes on through much of this week. We start to take that high pressure northwards by the weekend, and then going to more extended range. That's how we're looking. Again, we have taken that high pressure a long way north. It's going up to northern parts of Scandinavia. Low pressure is forming around Denmark and into the North Sea. Also got these areas of low pressure just there. What's going to happen as we get to day 10? Well, that's how we look. Actually, we keep a reasonable amount of anticyclonic influences. I think that low pressure just there is the remains of Florence. I suspect all of this chopping and changing and uncertainty is being caused by Tropical Storm Florence moving into the North Atlantic, and the models are trying to handle it. It is also being caused by the high pressure becoming a northern, or trying to become a northern blocking feature as well. So it's two things that are going on that the models are going to really struggle with over the next week to 10 days. So we can expect a lot of chopping and changing, despite high pressure still being quite influential at day 10 with the GM. The upper air temperatures are actually quite cool. And then where we go beyond that, as we go deeper into the second week of September and head up towards the middle of the month, I think we leave that alone for the time being. So a lot of dry weather coming up over the next few days. High pressure is going to be dominant. It looks like the high pressure is going to be shifting northwards towards the end of the week and next weekend. Will we set up a northern blocking feature somewhere around sort of the Norwegian Sea to Greenland? If we do, will we start to run that energy in underneath it and turn things a lot cooler and unsettled as we go through to middle of September? It would be a real change on what we've had this summer if we do. But I think Florence, Tropical Storm Florence, is going to cause a lot of uncertainty within the model output over the next few days. So I suspect reliability will probably be no better than around 5 days. Model reliability, I mean, probably no better than around 5 days until they've got a proper handle on what's going to go on with Florence. Expect pretty much anything as we go into the second week of September. Right, so that's brought you up to date with weekend forecast and also the weather for the next week to 10 days. This evening, Terry Scully's September forecast will be with you, and tomorrow, as I say, at 10 a.m, we will be releasing the first GalsWeatherBiz.com Winter 18-19 update. There's going to be an update for the winter 2018-19 every Sunday from tomorrow through to the final Sunday in November. So here we go again. The winter updates are about to commence for another year. And I assume I'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.